I'm done chasing monsters in the dark.
I need you on this with me.
This week on At the Movies with Ebert and Roeper, is the truth still out there? David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson are back in the X-Files. I want to believe.
Sebastian didn't care about me. All he ever wanted was my sister.
Forbidden love among the upper crust. Emma Thompson stars in Brideshead Revisited.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
And also some forbidden love from the people that brought us Talladega Nights. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are stepbrothers.
This is not about finding an FBI agent. This is about you trying to save your sister.
My sister is dead.
It hasn't stopped you from looking for her.
Okay, just when Mulder and Scully thought they were out, the truth pulls them back in. I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Richard Roeper. Our first movie is The X-Files, I Want to Believe. And that's probably a good description for the hardcore philophiles, I guess you could call them, who have been pining for Scully and Mulder for years now. But even if you've never seen the show or the previous theatrical film, Chris Carter, David Duchovny, and Gillian Anderson have teamed up to create an eerie, haunting, bizarre, standalone film that really works as a sci-fi mystery. Scully is now a surgeon trying to save children's lives. Mulder spends his time clipping stories of unexplained phenomenon. But then the FBI comes calling.
Tell me what you see. I see a face. Who? Who is it? It's unclear. Like through dirty glass. It's out there.
That's Billy Connolly in a mesmerizing performance as a pedophile priest who claims to have visions. Is he seeking redemption, or is he in cahoots with the suspects in a series of disappearances? Amanda Peet and Alvin, you know him as Exhibit Joyner, are FBI agents working the case.
This isn't going to do her much good.
It's a gym bag. It's a bathing suit. It's frozen stiff.
Chlorine.
Where's the nearest public pool?
I Want to Believe isn't so much about unexplained phenomena as it is about faith and trust. The religious symbolism here is constant. Mulder and Scully have a running dialogue about believing in things, whether it's the defrocked priest's psychic abilities or their own hopes for a somewhat normal life together. The movie does get into some pretty freaky territory in the third act, but for this casual fan of the series, I think it's a strong effort featuring some great characters, so I say see it.
I say no, and it's heartbreaking to me because Gillian Anderson is the one element of this picture that really rises above the routine. I think the rest of it, Richard,
really?
is just kind of just sort of in that mid, even lower than mid-range quality from the series. And I got to say, the series looked twice as good in any one of their really good hour-long episodes as this one. I don't think it's really shot with much distinction. And here's the other thing.
Okay.
I know a lot of people are waiting for the UFO angle on this film because the series was, you know, very into that kind of UFO mythology. It's not here. This is a different thing. How did Indiana Jones 4 end up with a UFO storyline and this one, not?
Okay,
you know?
that's a valid point.
Yes,
I'll give you that.
Yes.
But they
need to arrange
Michael,
a trade,
I got to disagree with you about a lot of the other things you said. First of all, I think it's very well shot. I think Duchovny slips into this role very comfortably. Very good supporting performances, especially from Amanda Peet, I thought. And Billy Connolly.
Hold on.
And Billy Connolly, very good.
You would not know Amanda Peet is a decent actress from this picture, honestly. She's doing so much of that sort of like X-Files monotone.
No,
Duchovny and
I thought she did a nice job. I liked it. Toward the end, I was like, are you really telling us what's happening here is happening here? And as I mentioned, I'm not somebody who watched the X-Files from start to finish. If you've never heard of these characters, I think you can appreciate this as a standalone story.
Well, I disagree with you, and I think it's going to let down the ardent fans. And I was a big fan the first couple, 3 seasons. And I don't know if this really does hold up as a compelling story for the newbie. I think if it doesn't find an audience, they're going to blame the fact that the show was too many seasons ago. I think it's because Chris Carter didn't take care of the story issues.
I disagree.
Yeah. Wrong again. Okay, here's a film guaranteed to get you thinking about your own high school years wherever you spent them. American Teen follows 5 seniors as they navigate all sorts of challenges at school and at home. The town is Warsaw, Indiana, population about 13,000. Warsaw High, home of the Tigers, is intensely focused on basketball, which means for young Colin Clemens, the pressure is always on.
Dad doesn't have money for college, but if you get 12 rebounds, everything else will fall into place. And they'll say, hey, we got to get that Clemens kid on the team. Otherwise, it's the Army.
As you can see, the parents are never far from the kids in this picture. American Teen contrasts Colin's story with that of Jake, a self-described band geek, Megan, a rich brat who's just begun to deal with the root causes of her rage, Mitch, the easygoing, well-rounded jock, and the documentary's favorite subject, Hannah, whose liberal arts interests and hereditary depression put her at odds with the apparent Warsaw high school norm.
So I'm a little different than a lot of people around here. Warsaw's such a conservative town, and I'm so not conservative. I don't fit in. I hate it.
There's a reason American Teen modeled its early posters on the old John Hughes high school picture, The Breakfast Club. It's because the writer-director Nanette Burstein doesn't really dig much deeper into what lies beneath the cliquish stereotypes of the high school caste system than John Hughes did. Rarely, I have to say too, rarely have I been so aware of a filmmaker's camera not just recording behavior, but shaping it and egging it on in that dubious reality TV way. Yet by the end, I was very much with the individuals on screen. So problems, big problems, but see it anyway, because these 5 are very interesting.
Well, compared to, you know, the contrived junk we see on MTV masquerading as a reality series, I think this is very authentic. I would agree with you, Michael, though. When you see, you know, somebody waking up in the morning, you realize the crew had to come in there and say, okay, now wake up in the morning. Unless
all documentaries, right, affect the subject in some way.
And sometimes you're very aware of it, and I would agree that I think probably certain types were chosen and maybe encouraged, but I think it's very true in the portrayals of these people, and I think it does dig deeper than just the stereotypes, as we see when one jock gets involved with this, you know, the cliché liberal arts students, and I think that's a very rich and complex relationship. We also see how technology affects these lives, you know, every moment, you know, the cell phone breakup or the cell phone get together, or somebody puts a picture on a cell phone and it gets spread out there.
Right. The relationship you bring up, that kind of solidifies at the midpoint of the picture, and that is when my resistance kind of went away, and I was fully in. The stuff I do not buy, though, is when you have 2 characters in an empty high school hallway pouring their hearts out to each other. That's where it gets right into the reality TV
But you know what, Michael, I'll tell you something.
Today's
teenagers who grew up with the internet, who put their entire lives on MySpace and Facebook, are very, very comfortable in front of the camera, and I think you do get an authenticity that you wouldn't have got if you were doing a documentary 30 years ago about high school students.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good film.
Yeah, no, I think it's good despite my issues with it.
All right, later in the show, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly really need to think about getting their own place in Step Brothers.
And next, Emma Thompson does not like what's happening to dear old England in Brideshead Revisited.
Beautiful house I've ever seen.
I think you should leave now, Charles.
You banish me from your house. You poison my friendship with both your children.
Sebastian, leave me alone.
I took you into my confidence and you betrayed me.
Emma Thompson gives a fierce and unflinching performance in Brideshead Revisited. Now, the 11-hour 1981 British TV adaptation is considered one of the finest miniseries ever made. It made a star out of Jeremy Irons. For me, a 2-hour version of this class and religious warfare stuff in pre-World War II England, it's just about right. This is a good but not great adaptation of the Evelyn Waugh novel. Charles is played by Matthew Goode, who we've seen in films such as The Lookout and Match Point. And Ben Whishaw plays Sebastian, the charming but ridiculously immature alcoholic who brings Charles into that family. They spend the summer at Brideshead.
And what form do your pleasures take, Mr. Ryder?
Sorry, pleasures.
Your hobbies? What do you do to relax?
He drinks.
Drinking is not a hobby, Sebastian.
Charles is a painter, Mummy.
How charming.
Sebastian's attraction to Charles is made more obvious here than it was in the novel or in the miniseries. Charles doesn't mind a platonic bromance, but his true affections are for Sebastian's sister Julia, played by Haley Atwell.
Who's that in the car with your mother?
My sister.
I take it you're not one of us.
I don't live like this, if that's what you mean.
He's here as my friend.
Don't you think you ought to know what he's getting into?
Directed by Julian Gerald, Brideshead Revisited is filled with gorgeous shots of Brideshead, along with a side trip to Venice. Brideshead has a certain melancholy. Even as we watch Sebastian and Charles and Julia flit about, we know the clock is ticking on their carefree days. This ultimately becomes a story about faith, with all its glory and all its ability to divide and conquer a family. I say see it.
Yeah, I think you don't even believe. I think you're giving it a pass because it's the right length for your busy lifestyle, 2 hours, and it happens to have been made in England, where the story is set. I think this thing is actually very disappointing.
I think you might be right.
Very
actually.
disappointing. And I think what the director's trying to do is what Joel Wright did with that recent Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, which I enjoyed a lot. That was a very loose and kind of fluid cinematic, and a little roughed up for people because it wasn't really technically in period Jane Austen. Here, I think all the handheld stuff and all that attempt to take the starch out of the story and make it more vibrant and everything, to me, it just feels off. Also this too. Emma Thompson, great actress. I think she's fighting against her own miscasting the entire picture.
I think
because she's playing 20 years older than her real age.
That's your preconceived notions about her. I think very good performances. Yes, it's a compressed version. I found it very enjoyable. It's not a great film, but I think for fans of the miniseries, fans of the novel, they'll enjoy this recap, this new version.
Well, I think that's a compelling argument that I don't believe.
All right, coming up next, I love them in Talladega Nights. Michael, not so much, but what will we think about Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly in Brideshead? No, just kidding, in Step Brothers.
And later in the show, I'll give you my picks for 3 to see, the best 3 movies in theaters right now.
This is how we do it. Hey, I never asked you. Yeah. You like guacamole? Oh, God! Run!
Now, Richard, I know you were briefly in the group Boys to Men for a time, and you're a big fan of their work. But as we all know, from hits like The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, there's a whole genre of screen comedy that works in the opposite direction, turning men into boys. Step Brothers is the latest example of this. It reunites those Talladega Nights gents, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Ferrell's character lives with his single mother, played by Mary Steenburgen. Reilly's character is mooching off his single father, played by Richard Jenkins. Now, when these parents meet and marry, the newfound stepbrothers are like oil and water. Here, instead of burying the hatchet, Ferrell buries Reilly.
What are you doing? I'm burying you. I'm alive! I'm alive! You're waking the neighbors! No. Shut up! No! Now I'm gonna play your drums. Close your eyes. Let the dirt just shower over you.
Soon enough, though, the bonding begins, and I do like the way these actors capture the breathless agitation of adolescence in this bit.
2 guys leave me no choice. No television for a week.
What?
We are so serious, guys.
You're high! Are you out of your mind?
Goes in Robert's wall safe, and it's gonna stay there.
No!
Okay.
This house is a prison!
But enough arrested adolescents. The boys have to find real jobs. Here we see them at a job interview that doesn't quite nail it.
Hello, Miss Lady.
You can't.
Shut your mouth.
You shouldn't tell the person who is interviewing you to shut their mouth.
You're sounding stupid now.
I'm sorry? What did
You're
you
just
say?
coming off stupid.
Please leave this office.
Do we get any sort of souvenir?
Get out of my office!
Step Brothers is just okay, with some laughs, most of which you can find in the Red Band R-rated trailer online. I enjoy both these actors, but the vehicle feels a little rickety this time out. I can't say see it, Rich, but I think I can't say skip it, so it leaves rent it. I say rent it.
Oh, I say skip it, don't rent it, don't watch it on an airplane, don't check it out on cable, don't walk past the bargain basement bin where it's being
This is your
sold
life
one
story,
day.
man.
No, it's not my life story. Let me tell you something. There's just something kind of creepy about these two 40-ish giant guys playing these perpetual adolescents, whereas in a lot of the other comedies you mentioned, there was some kind of charm behind it, and they do grow up.
Right.
Here, it seems to be an argument for dementia. I mean, these guys are, they're not just guys who never moved out of the house. They seem to be crazy. They seem to have serious issues going on that are never going to be solved, and it's just not that funny after a while. You get the same thing over and over again.
Right, I'm with you on that. The older these characters get, the less innately funny it is, and you're getting a long way from Superbad, where we have authentically sort of like, boy men.
I mean, they're playing their age here, but that's the problem, because they're doing it in a way like that Saturday Night Live characters would do in a sketch where grown men are playing kids.
Right.
Or, again, maybe this would work as a 5-minute bit. The guys who won't move out of mom's basement. But just this extended joke, and then they become friends. To me, it was just like scene after scene where you're waiting for the payoff. It seems like, okay, cut, next scene, it doesn't work.
Yeah, some of it does, some of it doesn't. I think overall you're looking at a movie that doesn't stand up at all compared to the ones we just talked about.
I don't think any of the elements work. The brother that's the bully, the brother's wife that has a thing for John C. Reilly, the relationship between these two fine actors, Richard Jenkins and Mary Steenburgen, doesn't feel like comedically it's worth anything, and it certainly doesn't feel authentic. It just misses.
Well, here's my thing, though. I think, you know what, though? In the end, I got more laughs out of this mess than I did with Talladega Nights, I got to say.
Well, that says a lot about you. All right, next up, a very different movie. It's a bleak but expertly rendered film, and it's called Boy A. That's the name the press assigned to one of 2 minors who were tried and convicted for the shocking and brutal murder of a 10-year-old girl. Now it's about a dozen years later. One of the boys apparently committed suicide as a teenager. The other has been released and has moved to Manchester. He now calls himself Jack.
This is Felix from the Evening News. Wants to do a little piece.
The 23-year-old man was reported to resemble Eric Wilson. Wilson was recently released from prison.
Jack. Jack.
Do you think you're rehabilitated?
You're not who you say you are.
Andrew Garfield plays Jack almost as an amnesiac. It's a tricky performance, but I think he pulls it off. We feel something for Jack, even as we get flashback glimpses of the events leading up to his monstrous sin. Boy A poses some tough and very divisive questions about crime and punishment. There's never any doubt, really, about Jack's guilt, never any question that he deserved to be punished. But when the killer himself is a child, do you lock him away for his entire life, or do you give him a chance to redeem himself as an adult? And how could he live a normal life if there's always the chance he'll be found out? This is tough, but I think well-made material. See it.
I say see it, too. It's the best film of the week, I think, and Andrew Garfield, very good. It's not that he keeps you guessing about the guy's guilt or innocence, because, as you say, we know what's going on here, but he's very crafty about kind of letting you know the psychological burden that would entail just trying to get back into society, live any kind of semblance of normal life with that hanging on your head. And the film is very good, I think, about showing how a good kid can kind of get sucked into this vortex of violence that's just too much a part of so many societies.
And how somebody who's committed a monstrous deed can try to be a better person, and the people around him, not knowing his past, respond to him as this nice, giving, kind of innocent guy. But we also see glimpses that maybe he hasn't controlled his temper issues, that maybe he's still struggling with his violent urges. So you can see everybody's side here. And Peter Mullen then, of course, playing the, the caseworker who really takes this kind of interest and makes him, becomes a father figure, and his problems with his son. All of those scenes I thought were just really well rendered.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing I would say is that I think the movie chickens out slightly when you get to the end and you see, the specifics of what happened that landed him in prison. I think the camera discreetly kind of ducks out of sight and sort of leaves it up to your imagination. And I wonder if it wouldn't have been a more provocative film if it really sort of made you see what's going on.
You know what, Michael, I was okay with that. I think that might have been the best way to handle that, not make it too sensationalistic.
We disagree on that, but we agree that it's a very good film.
Yes.
Okay, coming up next, Martin Scorsese and the Stones take center stage in our video segment. But first, here's a look at what's coming up over the next few weeks.
Because if we don't win, you can't do what you set out to do.
Can't see it, but kick out the window, isn't that what they do? Get your foot out of there!
This week's video segment is brought to you by Raisinets. Make a deliciously smart choice with Raisinets.
Welcome to Guantanamo Bay. You boys like to spoon?
Okay, looking at movies new on DVD, we both say you can skip the very disappointing Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. But I say check out Never Back Down. I recommended it. I was heavy on the peyote that week, but I'm sticking by my recommendation.
I'd also like to recommend 10,000 BC since I did too.
You disagree with me on Never Back Down?
I think so, just slightly, it being one of the worst films of the year.
Well, how about this one, Michael? I have the 25th anniversary edition of War Games as my video pick this week, and the computers have evolved just slightly since then. Matthew Broderick, who was only about 21 at the time, Ali Sheedy, of course, they're the teenagers who get involved in this thing where he thinks he's getting into a video game, but he's actually playing against
Armageddon.
Yes, Armageddon. And I think even though obviously the technology is dated, the story is great. The idea that a kid triggers a possible nuclear war between the United States and those Russians in the Cold War. A terrific film.
My God, I saw that when I was 2.
Yeah, I bet
Unbelievable. Richard, my DVD pick is the Rolling Stones concert picture Shine a Light, in which Martin Scorsese sticks a slew of cameras on a special concert at New York's Beacon Theater, put on by Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood, and Charlie Watts. Champagne, reefer, maybe just a little Geritol. The DVD has 4 extra songs not heard in theaters. Good film.
Good stuff. So both Shine a Light and the 25th anniversary edition of War Games will be in stores on Tuesday.
And we'll be back with my picks for 3 to see, the best 3 movies in theaters, right after this.
All right, recapping the movies in this week's show. We split on The X-Files, I Want to Believe. I say see it. Michael says skip it. We both say see it for the documentary American Teen. We split on Brideshead Revisited. I say see it. Michael says nope, skip it. We split again on Step Brothers. I say skip it entirely. Michael says it's good enough to rent. And we both say see it for the best movie on this week's show, Boy A.
Isn't that the truth? Okay,
Yes.
3 to see. My 3 favorites in theaters right now. Number 3. Journey to the Center of the Earth, engaging riff on the Jules Verne fantasy. Make sure to see it in 3D if you can. Number 2, Tell No One, a French thriller that mixes The Fugitive with the kind of police corruption tale you'd find in Mystic River. And number 1, the blockbuster with brains, class, and a genuinely sinister vision, The Dark Knight.
I like your picks
Still the
a
best.
lot, and
Still
you know
the
The
best
Dark
one out
Knight's a
there.
great film, but I'm so glad you mentioned Tell No One. People need to seek that out if it's playing in your
Absolutely.
market. All right, that's it for this week. Until next week, the balcony is closed.
From Jennifer, a $2.99 dual reclining sofa. That's right, $2.99. A dual reclining sofa only at Jennifer.
While I'm gone, no junk food.
Real cheese? Shopping's easy.
Tasty Hot Pockets brand sandwiches. You'll love them. So will your kids.
Hot Pockets.
Eggland's best eggs. Better taste, better nutrition, and better variety. The Better Egg.
How much can you save on your phone bill with Vonage? Vonage saves you up to $300 a year. Call 888-254-4VON or go online to 4Vonage.com.